Ghana versus Uruguay. At the beginning of the match, three teams could finish second, because obviously Portugal are through to the next round. So Portugal, didn't matter what Portugal did, doesn't matter. South Korea beat Portugal 2-1, which is the ultimate bearing on this group. However, this game, I think, there was carnage in this game. 2 VAR checks, 3 penalty shouts, 1 penalty given, a penalty save, 2 fantastic goals, all in the first, and it's just bizarre. The penalty check for Ghana is a penalty. However, how we got to that was long-winded, chaotic, and no one knew what was going on. That woke the Uruguayans up. Andre Ayew misses that penalty, and the goalkeeper Richot, who gives away the penalty, redeems himself with a fantastic penalty save. Andre Ayew was really poor in the whole tournament, let alone in this game. Jordan Ayew was also equally as poor as well. That was their best bit of play in the first half, was the shot that leads to the save, which leads to the penalty being given away, which leads to the penalty save. And that's Ghana's first half in about 30 seconds. Done. Uruguay woke up after that. Georgian de Arrasceta, yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful, scores 2 goals in 5 minutes, and the game is turned on its head, and a star is born, because Uruguayan fans, both at home and at the World Cup, have been pressuring the coach to put him in. He puts him in, he scores 2 goals. The first goal, that's good follow-up play from the Suarez shot. Ziggy, the Ghanaian goalkeeper, should have done, and possibly will regret not doing better with that. Rebound control, it's always what you're taught as a goalkeeper, and de Arrasceta, that's probably the easiest goal he's going to score. The second goal is fantastic build-up play. The Suarez flick over the shoulder and the half volley through the keeper is fantastic. You're not going to see a much better technical goal than that in this tournament. And that's 2 goals in 5 minutes. Uruguay are going through, and then it's half-time. There's a lot of added time because of the penalty fiasco with the VAR. Second half, there's another VAR check on 57 minutes, and Ghana woke up a little bit in the second half. Uruguay looking a little bit nervous. The game is still in their control. Darwin Núñez, he is scythed down on 57 minutes. And yes, that is a penalty in my view. The VAR's got that one wrong. Yes, the defender gets the ball, but he's come through the player to do it, and it's technically a 2-footed challenge because it's a scissor. Cavani had a shout later on. That is also technically a penalty because the defender's nowhere near the ball and Tate clips his rear leg and he goes down. But, hey, what do we know about officiating? I think VAR's got the first penalty right, however it was long-winded how we got there, and it's got the second penalty shout wrong and wasn't even used for the third one. I think the referees had a bit of an up-and-down game. The VAR has been controversial yet again, but then the news breaks, obviously South Korea going 2-1 ahead against Portugal, and suddenly there's a lot of added time, and they were behind the South Korea game because of the added time in the first half and the added time in the second half. There was about 16 minutes of added time in total, and it turned into what I would describe as a League One relegation scrap. The skill goes out the window, the desperation goes through the roof, and both sides start throwing the kitchen sink at each other. At which point, Sebastian Coates, remember him, Liverpool and Sunderland fans? Not the most mobile centre-back, not the quickest centre-back. He's now at Sporting Lisbon. He's now an emergency centre-forward. Darwin Núñez is brought off. Canubio is brought on. A spitting image of a young Diego Forlan. For those of a certain vintage, remember when he was at Man United in his early 20s. Canubio is a spitting image of Diego Forlan when he was about 21. Just make that one up. They put him on. Coates is now an emergency centre-forward. Cavani's had a brilliant header saved. It turns out to be just offside. The goalkeeper Ziggy's not to know that. He palms out of the bar. Richot has a brilliant save at the other end. They're throwing the kitchen sink. Suarez is in tears on the bench, which I think every non-Liverpool fan would love. Thank you, because he's that much of a divisive figure. I think even every football fan will probably love Suarez in tears because he's that divisive. Technically brilliant, but my God, he's an irritant, and he was an irritant tonight. He got himself booked for being Luis Suarez. But this match had everything. It was bizarre because Uruguay, big nation, it's been semi-finals, won the World Cup before in their history. Smallest nation to actually host and win the World Cup before Qatar hosted this World Cup. Another big nation going home because South Korea, who in the first 2 games didn't look great, have scored more goals. That's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, on the table, when it comes down to the goal difference, and this is where advanced statisticians and mathematicians come out, yes, they were equal on goal difference. But because Uruguay didn't score in their first 2 games, and they've only scored 2 goals, South Korea have scored more, and therefore, by scoring twice as many goals, even though they conceded more goals as well, South Korea go through. If they had scored the same amount of goals and conceded the same amount of goals and the goal difference is the same, South Korea would still have gone through, still would have gone through because they had a better disciplinary record, because Uruguay like getting booked a lot. And the Suarez booking, for being Luis Suarez and being an irritant, would have cost them anyway. So Uruguay would have had to have scored a third goal. Hope Ghana don't score at all, and then it just becomes ridiculous. And ironically, if actually they'd scored a third goal and then Ghana had scored, they still go out. But if they score a fourth goal, they go through. It's just ridiculous how this all permutates and works out and everything. Unfortunately, Uruguay was so poor in the first two games, they've left it late. And this is what's done for teams. Denmark have been poor. Germany have been woeful. Belgium have been poor. And now they're gone as well. And some big nations are falling out at the group stage. And Ghana have been just woeful throughout the entire tournament. South Korea have been average and got through. Portugal obviously didn't try tonight and rotated the squad a little bit, but they didn't have to do anything. They're comfortably through. They're not going to be taken for first place. They've done that in the first. They've done the business in the first two games. They can give some game time to some other players. Uruguay, they threw the kitchen sink at this. And when you've got Sebastian Coates as an emergency centre back, just tell him to go hang because he's good in the air. He's got no pace. So if the ball turns over, you're now short of centre back at the other end. Canubio, I will admit, for a young fringe player in this squad, when he lost the ball, he ended up at a right back position at one point. He's up on the right wing, he loses the ball, whatever, there's a challenge. He's busting a gut to get back because they're leaving a lumbering centre back up front. Ridiculous. But now we are no longer going to see Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, Godin, and Muslera at a World Cup ever again. Their international careers are coming to an end, but there is a new generation. Georgian de Arrasceta is probably going to be at the next World Cup should Uruguay qualify. He's going to be a future of this team. Pelestri is going to be a future of this team. Canubio is probably going to be around this team. And it's a changing of the guard. We're seeing it with Germany. We're seeing it with Belgium. Great players, their careers are coming to an end. Same with Argentina, with Messi. He's not going to be around at the next World Cup. Ronaldo's not going to be around at the next World Cup. Probably not even the next Euros. So some of these big nations are seeing a changing of the guard, and some of these big nations have underperformed, as have Uruguay. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I will say this, the last 20-25 minutes was like a League One relegation six-pointer where the winner stays up. Even if they win, they can still get relegated. It was that kind of intensity, that kind of game. And if you watch the lower leagues of English football, or even the lower leagues in German or Spanish or Italian or French or whatever European league you want, or even the Premier League and Bundesliga, that was a relegation fight. If it was a league game. And even then, the winning team doesn't score enough goals because their previous poor play, they've tried the great escape and it doesn't work. And that's what's happened with Uruguay. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll leave you with that little analogy. And thank you very much from me for watching, leaving all your comments, your likes, your subscribes, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.